Thanks again for coming out tonight, you guys. I really appreciate the crowd. This is awesome. So, welcome on behalf of Nancy and myself to our house. We're greatly appreciative of everyone coming out here tonight. So I want to do things a little differently than I think we typically see with these sorts of things. I'm not the type of person that needs to have an event that's all about me. What I wanted to do is just showcase all of the different things that are going on in the community. Get as many candidates as possible out here to talk about what's important to them, what's important to their communities, and also start to bring together the various aspects of this district. So if you guys don't know, I'm running for state senate here in the 32nd district, and it's an absolutely massive area. It runs from Yorba Linda and Chino Hills to the north, down to Temecula to the south, and then it goes east out to Anza and to Julian. And so it's this massive, diverse, just crazy huge area. And I wanted to make sure I gave everyone a chance to kind of get to know each other. So we've got people that are here from various parts of the district. I want to give a special thanks to those of them that came from Chino Hills. I know there's one that's still en route right now. Abel, thank you for coming out as well. I know it's a hike for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Keep this simple. So there are a couple people I want to make sure I brought out here for various reasons that are not necessarily candidates, but they're important to me and they're important to the community. And what I want to start out with is Crystal Reyna here. She does so much. It's Dare to Empower. It's National Organization of Women. It's so many different things. And so I just want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about all the work you're doing and how we can kind of help you. So
perfect. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I've met a number of you before in my travels. So I'm Crystal Reyna, and I have a foundation, Dare to Empower. I work with youth from 15 years old up to 25 young adults in junior high, high school, and at the college level. I do resilience coaching, and the goal is to minimize the teen suicide rate. So I have been doing this work now for about 10 years, and recently became involved with the National Organization for Women. I've been in the organization for less than 6 months, but I am also the membership chair for now, and we're always looking for new members. So if you're interested in supporting women's rights and the values that we carry, we'd love to have you join our organization. But I'm also here to represent Angel Nevin, who's running for Menifee City Council District 2. Unfortunately, she could not be here this evening. She's not feeling well. As all of you know, we're under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure in the race to November, and it's taken a toll, and so she decided to step back today, and I'm going to be addressing some questions for her, and I'll do my best to answer them. But a little bit about the work that I've been doing with Dare to Empower as it relates to the election. Like I said, we work with teens, but we also work with young adults on the college campuses throughout Southern California. My son and I co-founded Dare to Empower, and we started the organization because he was a victim of bullying in junior high and high school, and it was really, really bad. And it was our way of communicating to others that they're not alone. We wanted these students to understand that there's bullying happening on all levels. It's not just happening in the schools, it's happening in the workplace, it's happening in society. And we wanted an opportunity for these students to hear our story, share their story, and learn how to support one another. And through that, I have been able to connect resources in the community with these students and their parents to help them to get that additional support. I can tell you, as a mother of a child who was bullied, he's not a child anymore, he's 25, but as a mother, I was heartbroken and didn't even know which direction to step when he was enduring it. And so it was important for me personally to get out there and talk to others who may be experiencing the same thing, so I can better understand where they're coming from. They can understand where I'm coming from. And together, we can lift one another up. So the work that we are doing at the college level, right now we're trying to recruit additional supporters, but what we're doing is we're training them to go out and speak on issues that are close to their hearts. Be heard. Your voices matter. And that's the message that we're sending to these college students. We have a number of students who want to go out and canvass. They want to share their message as they door knock. They want to hear from other people and understand that there are a lot of areas where we can relate. You know, we all have a story. We all have struggled in one way or another. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's close to our heart. So if any of the candidates are looking for support in their campaign from the younger voters, please don't hesitate to connect with me, because we can get some of your information on these campuses and shared by the members of our organization. So I'm here to support all of you. And as now the National Organization for Women, we have a number of candidates who are present here who have already been endorsed by our organization. And we're here to support you. So as we do our canvassing this month, through the remainder of the month, we're more than willing to share your information as we go throughout the community. So do not hesitate to call on us for that support. Okay? I appreciate your time. Thank you. Let me go around you.
There we go.
I'll go around you.
So you can plan for a lot of things, but you can't necessarily choreograph. All right. So I think that the message is so important. It's kind of what I'm trying to get across here, right? The idea of all of us working together to solve really big problems. And with that, I'm going to bring up another person, one of the first people that I met here, super passionate, super... we've had multi-hour long discussions. I have multiple points about just housing, things like that are so crucial. And I absolutely love your passion. So Laurel, I'd love to have you come up and just say a few words about what you're working on, attainable home ownership and your organization. So Laurel Lamont, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm just here. Well, first, my name's Laurel Lamont. I'm a single mom first and foremost, and then everything else is second. I'm a grocer, and I'm an attainable homeownership advocate for the local economic workforce. We've been talking about raising the minimum wage for a long time, and I had a struggle with this early on because I've always made above minimum wage, but still never been able to afford the community I work in. So that 10 years I've been working on this, and that brought me to the company of Habitat. I sit with Habitat at the table with the city of Temecula, and created a light proposal on how we could create workforce housing for the local workforce. And I think it starts with valuing the lesser economic workforce and not seeing us as transitional jobs, and seeing us as critical and important to every community.
Yes.
There's just no way we could replace all these jobs with our youth. Mm-hmm. We are grandparents, we are mothers, we are fathers, we are a whole litany of community members that are dependent on these jobs. And if COVID showed us anything, it was how important and essential these jobs are. We see firefighters, we see teachers, we see medical professionals, we see them, we value them with no question. But what we don't see are the barbers and the grocers and the cooks and the cleaning staff. We don't see them. And they're here, and they can't afford to live here and raise their families. And I believe that together, through community action, we can come up with ways to include these local workers into the community through inclusionary housing, habitat, and attainable homeownership options. There's no one-way solution for this, but right now our affordable housing system is a rental model that goes up every single year regardless of if your income goes up. So there's no upward mobility in it. There's no home security in it. You move around a lot because you can't afford the rent anymore. So I'm just here to speak on behalf of the local workforce who doesn't typically show up to these events because they've lost faith and a belief that in this system. All right, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I know I could have gotten about an hour
Thank
out
you
of you
very
had we
much.
done this. Like, that's kind of a minimum point at this point. So, no, her work is amazing. It's super important. I'm so thankful she came to share it with you guys because it affects so many voters, potential voters, the youth, every demographic you can imagine. It is a major opportunity for whoever chooses to talk to them. So, thank you. I think we're going to move to a different piece of this at this point. So I'm going to start looking at our city council members. This is something where I've got the fortune here of having Jimmy here. We've met a couple times. You're here in Murrieta. I absolutely appreciate the fact that you're fighting the fight. I know how the struggle that you're going through with some of this, and I wanted to make sure you had a chance to tell your story. I greatly appreciate the work you're doing, and I want to make sure I'm supporting you any way I possibly can. So come on up and let's hear your story.
I'd like to tell everyone White that I'm happy to be here.
Wake up.
And before I get started, I'd like to thank Brian and Nancy for inviting me and the team that you guys have supporting you as well. I am Jimmy Jackson. I've been a resident of Murrieta for over 18 years. I had such an eventful week. I've been making notes, and I will be referencing my notes throughout my conversation because it's been busy. I have lived in Murrieta, as I mentioned, for over 18 years. I am a champion for integrity, accountability, innovativeness, and teamwork as principles that I personally adhere to. I have proudly served my country for 6 years in the United States Navy. I am a decorated Vietnam-era veteran. I have earned a Master of Business degree, administration degree, with emphasis in telecommunications management. I have a Master of Business Administration degree with emphasis in management information systems. Today, I am a retired business professional, civil servant, entrepreneur, and active community member with a distinguished career in administration, information technology, operations, finance, telecommunications, and of course, leadership. I recently served my community as a member of the Riverside County Civil Grand Jury. I am excited about the opportunity to serve the city as a member of Murrieta City Council, District 5. Being the father of 2 adult children has reinforced many of the values and virtues that I espouse. I learned while performing my military service to my country and throughout my civilian career. Fatherhood has taught me patience and how to solve complex challenges using creativity and situational awareness while remaining conscientious of maintaining goodwill. As your council member, I intend to build upon the following goals. I want to work diligently to support and enhance the healthcare services that we provide within Murrieta. I've had an opportunity to speak to many different people, and concerns have been expressed to me, and I have many of the same concerns. I would like to represent Murrieta and making sure that we're able to get an improvement in that particular arena. I like to encourage businesses. I like to encourage their development, their growth, and I feel that that would increase employment opportunities with not just getting a job, but actually being able to plan a career once you get that job. That is very important for any vibrant city, and that's an area I really would like for us to support and go forward to. I will work with the city planners to improve the flow of local traffic and reduce traffic congestion or these so-called choke points that we have throughout the city. Many people drive through Murrieta, but then what happens, the traffic for us who live here has a tendency to back up, and a 15-minute trip normally takes 30, 45 minutes or even longer in some cases. I like to do this through the use of technological advancement, strategic road designs, city mapping, code enforcements, and increased freeway entrance and exit ramps. Plus, I will work to increase the availability and affordability of single-family housing in Marietta District 5. I too am concerned, and I've received numerous comments from people informing me that the price of housing is simply out of their reach. If you're young, you just came from the military, you support your veterans, and if you just happen to move from another city, you have to be able to have affordability of homes. And this is an area I think we need to work on. These are just some of the issues that need to be addressed, and the issue will evolve as time progresses. What is important today may not be quite as important 2 years from now. We will have the flexibility, and I know I have the flexibility to adjust accordingly. I have dedicated my life to providing quality service to all, and today I am eager to take the next step. Your votes and support are needed and greatly appreciated. And the vote that I'm asking for myself, it doesn't just stays with me. It's extended to all the candidates, all the individuals who are interested in their community and have the best intention, and they want to be recognized as well. So your vote goes for each and every one of the candidates. I would ask you to support them as well. I look forward to increasing the reciprocity of my relationship with my home, my neighbors, and within my community. Elect Jimmy Jackson for Marietta District 5 City Council on Election Day, Tuesday, November the 8th, 2022. Thank you.
All right. So I do have another city council member, but I don't think they're here quite yet. So I'm actually going to move forward to school board. And I those of you that don't know the school boards in this area, and this isn't just Marietta, but Marietta, Temecula, Lake Elsinore is having some issues. Chino Hills is having issues. Just throughout, there's all sorts of issues with less than quality candidates, we'll just say, to put it nicely, that are being funded by some groups to take over the school board. I'm not going to make this a big anti-412 statement, but I will mention their names real quick. But what I am going to do, if you haven't heard me speak on those people, to just go back and look at Temecula City Hall meeting on Tuesday. I'm not going to say anything else. All right, so I'm going to start with here is I'm going to bring up Abel here. He's going to talk about his situation, and then I'm going to bring up Nancy to talk about here in Marietta. So let's start with Abel. Let's get a little bit more of a perspective outside of right here. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. I'm also gonna read off of it. I'm like a little nervous, you know. It's a lot. But,
Mike, close to your mic.
Hold the mic up. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Got it.
So yeah, I'm just gonna start reading. Okay. So my name is Abel Chavez, and I'm running for Nubia Union School District. So the school system in Nuevo has seen a decline in ratings and test scores for a really long time. All the school board members are they're like business people. They're all Republicans, and they're not really listening to the teachers. And so I'm here to fix that issue. As a teacher and a parent, I've seen success in my class, my school, and my home, and I want to share that success in the town that I grew up. Through my professional experience as a chemistry teacher, I discovered a passion for servant leadership and continuous improvement. I volunteered to take the lead for a curriculum-based planning committee for the science department. In that role, I facilitated group discussions to improve curriculum plans for the upcoming years and upcoming weeks. I utilized the test scores as a metric to determine the curriculum that needed improving teaching strategies so that our students can get the most value out of their learning. The Nubia Union School District needs to create a system to define the scope and sequence of the standards taught. So it's really important, and I feel like that's not happening right now. People are just kind of doing what they, it's like the Wild West. And so I want to create a system. I want to work with the superintendent to create a system that removes redundant lessons and implements proven teaching strategies to ensure high value learning. I was a founding member of, I'm the vice president of a group of Latinx teachers called La Voz in the district that I work at. Our group helps teachers get the resources that they need to advance in their careers and in their life, and to help their students. I come with the experience of a teacher and the love of a parent to perform all the functions of a school board member, and I'm eager to devote the time and energy that the community of Nuevo deserves to make the children of the, make our children the leaders of tomorrow. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Abel. I appreciate you coming out today. And also, I just want to say this, that this is what this is supposed to be. These are the conversations we're supposed to be having, right? How do you better the curriculum? How do you make sure our kids are getting ahead? This is what it's supposed to look like. Now, again, I'm not going to get too... I'm going to do my best tonight. But what I am going to say is the way you fight back on this nonsense is to vote. And I can tell you right now, I'm really excited to have Nancy Young here to help be the antidote to some of the craziness that's going on locally. So, Nancy, please come on up. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Hi, everybody. And I actually have experienced what you're talking about. Okay, so I've experienced what you've talked about, with the school board in your district. Temecula, I work in Temecula, live in Murrieta, and we actually like our school boards in both cities. There's a positive relationship between the board and the teachers and the superintendents. Things are actually quite peaceful. There are 3 open seats in Murrieta, and 2 of them, the incumbents, are running again. The one that I'm trying to get on, the president is retiring, and I was recruited by my union, the Murrieta Union, and school board members to run because there are 2 412 candidates running for this spot. One is full-blown endorsed by them, Courtney Cooper, and the other one is Jeff Hogard, and he can't be endorsed by them, but he's very aligned with them. And it's the same thing for every other open seat. So both city, I'll talk about because it's the same thing. They're supporting the incumbents across the board plus me. So I stepped in to I want to protect the district. Murrieta has the top test score. It's the top district in Riverside County. It's in the top 2% of the state. And these people are wanting to bring in their racism, their personal religious beliefs, and impose them on everybody. They're very homophobic. They've been harassing teachers who are homosexual. They've ruined the lives of a couple of teachers in Murrieta. They target students. And they have this idea that, and I am talking about 412, Brian. They think teachers are creating homosexual panels to convert kindergartners. It's crazy. It's like that. It reminds. It's really they're very aligned with QAnon. So, but they are targeting every seat. So, I am a teacher. I'm a foreign language teacher. I'm credentialed in French and German. I've taught English as a second language and Spanish a couple of times. I'm also a coach. I work directly for the Riverside County Office of Education, mentoring new foreign language teachers. I speak 4 languages fluently, so I can relate to people coming in here having to learn the language. So I'm wanting to protect the district. I don't, as opposed to what you're dealing with, I don't feel like the district has a lot of problems, except for these people. Of course, we need to stay up with changes in society and support students who are having emotional and psychological problems, because there is a lot of that. For example, suicide. In my career, I've had a few students that have suicide. I'm basically wanting to stop 412. So, yeah. We're here to support you.
And I think someone else said it, but I'm going to repeat that. We are here to support that because there's no place in any of this district, any of this area, anywhere in this country for this nonsense, this Christian nationalist bullshit. So I'm going to switch gears real quick here. Thank you so much, Diego, for finally making it here. He made it from the furthest away, so there's no hard feelings on this. He came from Chino Hills, and this is what's really important. I just want to speak on this real fast. The issues that Nancy just talked about are the exact same issues that we see up in there. It's just done with a different name. Instead of 412 here, I believe it's Calvary Chapel that Jack Hibbs is running.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of the exact same issues up there. Fortunately, we've got some young blood talent here that's going to do some really good work that negates a lot of this. So Diego, come on up. Let's talk about what you got going on.
So, first of all, thank you, Brian, for having me here. I know I'm pretty far, so most of you guys don't pass by Chino Hills that often, but in Chino Hills, in the school board, I'm running for city council. Just for background, what Brian's saying, on the school board, there's two school board members that are from Calvary Chapel, and right now Calvary Chapel is trying their best. They donated $50,000 each to two of their candidates to try to take over the school board, because their intentions are taking school prayer to the Supreme Court and the like, and they're anti-transgender, anti-LGBT and the sorts. And just to put it in perspective, there we go. Just to put it in perspective, the pastor Jack Hibbs in Chino Hills Calvary Chapel, he was one of those people in 2020 where his what's the word? He's in his congregation talking to everybody, and he was like this, tears in his eyes. Please, Lord, please let Donald Trump win. We need 4 more years. And he's crying, like, straight up. And you're like, what's going on? Like, separation of religion and state. So our school board election's really important in that area. So hopefully we could win there. But me personally, I've lived in Chino Hills in this community called Los Serranos. And it's the majority Latino community. It's the oldest community in the city. Yet we still don't have sidewalks, and Chino Hills is one of the richest cities in the nation. It's a fact, if you follow basketball, the Ball brothers, Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball, they come from this city. They still live in the city because it's a pretty wealthy city. And I'm like, what is this? This is unfair. My whole life, no one's ever stood up for us. No council member from Los Serranos. And the current council member we have, his name is Brian Jose. He never campaigns, never canvasses in the area. He stays to the more affluent, wealthier areas. So my platform is have someone from Los Serranos, for Los Serranos on the city council so we can finally have a seat on the table. And on top of this, inflation's at an all-time high. And this could help everybody, not just the people from Los Serranos. We should invest in renewable energy in order to lower our energy bills. So in the process called community choice aggregation. So that way we're not just competing with Edison. We actually have our own energy supply so we can lower energy prices, not just during inflation, but after. And the same thing with the internet. Make the internet a public utility. This will help everyone have internet access, and the quote-unquote profits that the city would make would just be reinvested right back into the community. So it's a win-win for everybody, and also ties into the school board because then families that don't have access to internet or broadband internet now do. And finally, I was doing some investigation last night. A big thing in Chino Hills is that we're losing our open spaces, which is why a lot of people move there. It's the Chino Hills State Park, and we're just known for having a lot of parks and open space. And the residents have been pretty mad that there's a bunch of development happening, not just housing, which was needed, but like warehouses, retail. And I was going through my opponent's donations, and for the longest time, he was not considering me a threat because, I'm 20 years old, I'm still in college. He's like, who is this guy? Who cares? I don't need a fundraise. So that first fundraising month, he didn't raise hardly anything. And I've taken this seriously. I've knocked over hundreds of homes. So now in the whole Los Serranos area, there's a bunch of my signs everywhere. They're yellow and red USC colors, so you can see them in the night. And he's like, shoot, I need to start putting signs up. So in that area specifically, I have all the homes. He has those public areas you can put signs, so there's no support. Where he does have support is the more predominantly wealthier, affluent areas. Yet, because of my platform, I don't run as a Democrat because at the end of the day, even though I support Democrats, when people hear Democrat, Republican, immediately they just turn off their brain. Like, we can't just do that. I have to speak to everybody. So I have a broad coalition of both Democrats and Republicans. I give them the same platform you do, and they support me. And then on top of that, a few of my signs have been caught to be removed. I'm not going to say it's him because, it could be a supporter. It could be somebody who's like, I hate this sign next to my house. But needless to say, I was mad. So I was just canvassing the area where he supposedly lived. and I got some supporters to put some signs up on the yard. But tying back into it, I went through his donations, and lo and behold, he has donations from warehouse companies, from the hotel industry. We have around 3 hotels in our small city. Like, who's going to Chino Hills for the hotels? It's all part of the money. He just 2 days ago got $5,000 from real estate packs just alone, and he's received more thousands of dollars before. And on top of that, when I speak back to bringing renewable energy in order to compete with Edison, lo and behold, just yesterday, Edison gave him a nice check of $1,000. So it looks like not just he's taking notice, but other companies. And hopefully by speaking to more people like you guys, having this voice, and speaking to residents, I could actually win in November. And I really think I do, because in Los Serranos especially, people, I talk to them and people say, you're the first person who's ever canvassed in my house in my entire life. Or like the second. Hardly anyone ever goes. So the thing is, with that broad support with both Democrat and Republicans, he's pretty scared right now because he thought I was a nobody, and now he has all this catching up to do. And there was one more broad point I had to make, but I don't remember. Just thank you guys. I remember now. I remember now. I'm 20 years old, and you're thinking, how could somebody trust a 20-year-old? But the fact of the matter is, almost to everyone I talk to, they're telling me, actually, we need more people like you in the politics. There's a bunch of young people missing. And to close it off, exactamente. And to close it off, to the people who are like, aren't you a little too young? You look like you're in high school. I tell them, well, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, they literally started at 19 in order to start off their multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yes.
So why can't I start off at 20 to give back to my own community?
That's right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for coming out. I greatly appreciate that. No, and I want to be serious about something real quick here. So a lot of these events, people go asking for donations and stuff like that. I'm not doing that tonight. I have no expectation of getting a dime from anybody. What I am going to ask you to do is help these guys out. The Nancy Youngs, the Abels, the Diegos. I believe them. I believe in what they're doing. I want these guys to succeed long term. So if you do have some money to spend tonight, I would absolutely love it if you guys could go there. I also would love to see Steve Houlihan kick Daryl Ice's ass out of office. But let's be clear, I just want to make sure you guys see the passion in these kids is freaking amazing, and that is what's going to make a difference, not just this race, but for the decades to come. So that is what this whole thing is about. So next up, Fazia, I freaking love you. you're like the absolute nicest person on the planet. You're so damn smart, and you're meant for this role. So for all of the bad guy image I get, you totally balance it. So I absolutely love having you here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for stepping up to do this. We needed someone to be in this area. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the support you have given me in this journey. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Fazia Rizvi. I'm a mother, an engineer, a small business owner, a non-profit founder, and elected to Western Municipal Water District. I am running for California State Assembly in the brand new District 8063, which covers the cities of Menifee, Canyon Lake, Lake Elsinore, parts of Corona, the bigger parts of Corona, Norco, parts of Eastvale, and Riverside, Canyon Crest, Woodcrest, Orange Crest, up to UCR. Yes, it's a big district. It is a big district, but I'm up for the challenge. And unfortunately, my opponent does not live in the district. Right? Yes, he is under investigation for moving into the district, getting nomination papers done, and moving out of the district before the primary election. He did not vote for himself. This is the guy who wants to represent our community, and he has to go through me. We are not letting our community. We are not letting our community to give to someone who does not care, who does not show up. This is a very important time for us. I started this work. Let me start go back. I will be the first Muslim woman elected to the California State Legislature. I have, yes, and this work started after 9/11, where I realized that women like me has never been represented here in our community. And there is such a big misconception of who we are, what we do, what the work we've been doing in the community. And that led me to start just in being involved. I was a PTA mom. I started being involved in the interfaith community. I served on as an interfaith chair. I have been involved in the city of Corona. I was the only woman in, part of construction of the mosque in Corona, and where I really realized the issue with construction, workers, permitting, businesses. Really, I'm like, and that's where the advocacy really began. We're like, why is it so hard to construct something? Why is it so hard for businesses to be, to be in the city of Corona? Really, I'm like, we were just going to city over and over, and nothing was getting done. And so I'm a water engineer. I work on water and sewer technologies. I do consulting. So I had the opportunity to work at the desal plant in Carlsbad. I got this beautiful opportunity to work there. My kids were going to school, so I decided not to uproot them. I had to commute 78 miles one way every day for 5 years. It was such a great opportunity, but every day I would think about, why can't I find a job that's local, that can pay my bill, that can let me keep my house? These were the issues, really, what has led me to be here. During the pandemic, I started a nonprofit for the People Task Force. Early days of the pandemic, a friend of mine is an oncologist. She asked me, hey, you're from Pakistan, you guys know how to sew. Can you make me some hand-sewn masks? I was like, sure. I'm like, yeah, that's what I was really proud. I'm like, yeah, my mom taught me, and she said, one day you'll use this skill. And I'm like, I hated my mom at that time. I was like, no, I won't. I hate you. But yeah, this happened. This really happened. I was like, they're always right. So, I started looking into it. I made her a few masks, and she called me back a few days later. She's like, you know what? Can you make some more? The patients were so happy. They love you, and and she's saying, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't really like it, but sure, I'll go ahead and do it. And we went to Joanne Fabrics, and we started going there, and we couldn't find fabric. We couldn't find. It was really, in the beginning, we didn't know what was going on, right? But it really gotten so bad. I started getting calls from people like, oh, you made a mask for somebody. Can you do it for me? And 20,000 masks later, we had given out to our senior citizens, making sure that the first line of attack would be those seniors that can't go anywhere, but we wanted to make sure they're safe. Our essential workers, our grocery workers, we wanted to make sure the people at the grocery who were working should be safe. And there were some corporations like Sprouts. We went and offered them masks for their workers. They wouldn't accept it. They were like, no, people get turned off. They don't want to accept it. They don't want their workers to wear masks. We were surprised. I was very surprised. And we really realized what kind of society are we living in, really? It's like, we're trying to help people. But that project led us to, when we were out there just giving out masks, we realized that food insecurity is a big thing in our communities. We don't realize it. I never had to deal with it, right? Having, living that life, we were blessed to be safe and be on the other side. I realized food insecurity is huge, especially right at the beginning of the pandemic when there were so many job losses. What do? We started connecting with people. We get, called so many people, made connections. We started giving out food. We held 110 food drives, and we gave out 35 million pounds of food, which led us to now have a food bank in Corona, which the need is there.
Yes.
We didn't realize that how many families, we were able to help 50,000 families. But this is just what we were able to connect. But there are a lot more, especially schools, right? I'm like, thank God California has just passed where kids can get lunches. But there were so many families that we realized they were teachers. They had to, so many of them came to me and said they just are short of money to pay rent, so they'll make the rent payment if I can help them with food and milk. And this was the reality every day was hitting us, that this is what our community, this is what's going on in our communities. And how many of, we talk about politics, how many of our representatives know this issue? Like have had to hear from the people right there. So when this opportunity for running for assembly came, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this. I had gotten elected at Water District. I really, being an engineer, I love it. It's the most, satisfying thing I do. Innovate things, find solutions to things. But my passion is serving my community. I've been doing this since I don't even remember when, right? So I decided to, a few people talked to me. I talked to our friend Bill Hedrick. I'm like, people are reaching out to me. What do you think? He's like, you can do it. And I was like, that's not the answer I was looking for. I wanted somebody to say, hey, no, not a good idea, Fazia. You just got elected to Water District. Do your thing. And I was like, everybody I talked to is like, if anybody can do it, it's you.
Yes.
I was like, no. So, but it gives you the courage. It gives you the inspiration that people are looking up to you. There are people who need you. So that's why I decided to run for this new district. And I have been just working every day to make sure that we have the representation to the issues that I have heard from families during last 2 years. We find solutions to them. And I know I can't find all the solutions, but I know in my heart that I will work every day to find those solutions. And that is why I'm running. And thank you all for being here. We can't do this work without you all. It takes a village. Really, running for office is something so hard. So when I see this village here, it just gives me motivation. We started canvassing 9:30 this morning. I haven't gone home. So, but when I see you all, like, it was worth it. I'll be back on the campaign trail tomorrow. I'll be walking tomorrow because our community needs us. So thank you all for being here.
And she's the greatest. There's nothing else I really need to say here. So I'm gonna keep my part real short here, just because I know we're getting a little on time here. So for those of you guys that don't know me personally, and I don't know if there's really all that many people in the room that don't, but Brian Nash, 32nd District State Senate. And I'm not going to talk about all of the crazy stuff I've said over the months and all the people have pissed off. That's all good. What I am going to do is talk about the really important stuff that is what's pissing them off. I want to talk about education. I want to talk about the things that I want to drive forward that make a better life for people, that make it so that they're not under the foot of someone else. So let's talk about the fact that I grew up, my mom was a teacher, she was a former principal, my dad was a small business owner. And so I grew up under the umbrella of education is super, super, super important. I also grew up in a family that was very much pressed that, Brian, you're going to be a doctor. And so I went along with it for the longest time. And then end of the second to last semester in college, oh shit, I don't want to do this. So instead of just going through it like a normal person and just hating their life for the next 50, 60 years, I did the dumb thing and dropped out. Yeah, my parents were thrilled. But the thing that I was able to do from that, I ended up starting working in lower level retail jobs, things like that. So I worked at a place that I shouldn't name, but I'm going to name anyways, Sears. And dealt with all sorts of issues. Wage theft was a big one. They would lock us in the stores after hours and not pay us to do our jobs, which was a fun one. Got into fights with them over that. That's where I kind of got my thing for speaking up, right? So I grew up outside Flint. I was living near Detroit at the time. And if you don't know anything about those two areas, they are not particularly wealthy outside of some of the richer suburbs that are funded by Ford, GM, etc. So the people that are working at Sears are not those people. They're the people that are trying to make ends meet, and the management was certainly trying to take advantage of it. Me, being the cocky, loudmouth a-hole I am, spoke up, caused all sorts of problems, and ultimately left the company, and they are, if not extinct, they're getting real close to it. So going on from there, I've worked at a number of other companies where certain things like that have come up. And that's kind of where I got my voice. And the just, I don't care, I'm going to speak up, I'm going to say something when I see something that's not right. And I want to take that to what I'm doing here. You guys have seen some of the videos on certain people I've talked about and said, and I'm going to continue to do that as long as I'm a part of this. And if I'm not elected, I will continue to do it regardless, because that's just who I am. But what I want to stand up for are the people that really make this area run and don't get the credit for it. Talking about Laurel's situation, right? We're talking about the people that are in those service jobs that I came from, and knowing how hard it is in Detroit and Flint, where the average house in some areas goes for $10,000, and people still can't live there. And certainly with the water issues making it even worse. In an area like this, where the average house is somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000, if not more, that's impossible. And so we need to work with people to make sure that these things are happening. And that's why I bring someone like a Laurel in to talk about that. That's why I talk about people like Diego, who are the youth that have these brilliant ideas that to help bring things in a different light than what I can do on my own or what any of us can do on our own. And that's why I wanted to make sure this night was about bringing people together throughout the district. We have just had redistricting happen, and we are in this together for the next decade. So let's make sure we're working together to make this all happen. So I'm going to end my speech there, because y'all know me already. I know we're cutting it on time real quick, so I want to actually go ahead and bring up the dude. I want to beat Daryl Issa real badly. So go ahead, Stephen. Let's talk about your campaign a little bit.
Thanks, Brian. You're amazing. And I've been watching some of your stuff on social media, and you're pretty radical, man. You're pretty radical. And I remember when I first had met you at the barbecue up here in Marietta, and I'm like, yeah, he seems pretty low key. Then I'm watching some of his stuff online. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. This guy's pretty cool. So, and then we've been running, our paths have been crossing, and then when this came up, I was like, yeah, we're definitely gonna make it up there. Up to the Nashes up here. But what I want to say is, sitting here listening to everybody, I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired by all the candidates. So I just want to give them a round of applause. So please. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you all for running, all of the candidates, because running, it sucks. It sucks. It's hard. It's hard. I know what you're going through. And, people say, well, Steve, why would you want to run for Congress? It's like, well, maybe I got a loose screw or something. But it's not something that happened in a day. I've been doing this sort of thing for a decade. It's truly a long-term commitment. And, it started as an activist, going out and people in the community asking me to come out and speak on their behalf. And then, having some success. And then other members of the community saying, well, there's this guy, go look for him. The Stephen Houlihan guy. And I'm like, oh, you want me to go to another city council meeting? No, that's like, they don't even let us talk till the end of the night. You gotta sit there for 6 hours, and then they give you 30 seconds. And that's if you're lucky. And so, and then eventually, I went to so many city council meetings, I ran for council and got on the council. And I was like, you know what? If you guys keep being mean to everybody, I'm going to run for council. I'm going to be up there with you. And so next thing you know, I'm on the council, and I get up there, and, what happens is I'm always outvoted. You get all these great ideas, like inclusionary housing. What a great idea. And so, I learn about it. I try to learn about all this stuff. and then try to bring forth this great idea. It seems like a no-brainer, and the council votes against it. Why? Why would they vote against such a great idea? Money, because they followed the money. And Diego came up. He's got great energy. I was like, wow, he's got great ideas, and he's following the money. And you know what? That is smart. That is smart, because what happens is you see where the money's coming from. I never heard of 412, but I went against other groups, QAnon offshoot type groups. They're everywhere. And so if we don't get up there and be strong, they're going to be taking over, and they're going to be making our decisions for us. And that's not okay. That's not okay. But let's take a step back. So I had a pretty tough childhood as well. Growing up, I slept on the couch. My parents split, and I didn't even have a bedroom. I didn't have a bedroom. We rented out all the rooms. My mom worked 2 jobs while I raised my sister. It was tough. And we were just lucky to hold on to our home. And I started going to work. I was a big guy. I lied about my age, and I started working like when I was like 13. And so I'm like, well, I got to go to work because I got to get some shampoo to wash my hair, and my pants had holes in them. And so I worked my hardest, and I eventually became a dishwasher. I'm like, ooh, and a cook, and then eventually a nurse's assistant, and worked my way up and to become a nurse, an actual RN. I went to college. My first job, I'm making $15 an hour. I'm thinking it's great. It was hard. It's been hard to make it, and it is hard for people, and I get it. And that lit a fire in me a long time ago. Talking about food insecurity, I remember the loaf of cheese that we would go get over at the Santee barn. And I was like, ooh, that cheese is so good. Because I was living off grilled cheese sandwiches and top ramen. And it was like, that was it. That was about as good as I could do until I became a cook, and then I was happy to get some food over there, right? So yeah, it was tough, and we all go through these trials and tribulations. And then, when you get to the other side of things and your life's better, I own a home, I'm married, I have my child, who's 12 now, we start to talk back as they do. You want to give back, and we need to give back. And so, that's why I'm running for Congress. I'm running to give back. But what was the catalyst? When I watched the assault on the Capitol on January 6th, I knew I had to get involved. And it was like I had just run for mayor in my hometown. And I just lost. And it's like, oh. And you're like, well, I want to get out, I'll take a break. And my wife's like, yeah, take a little break. I think my break lasted about 20 minutes. Yeah. And then I was like, right back in. Because our democracy is at risk. It's at risk. And if we don't fight for that now, we may not get to fight for it later. And so I'm in it, and I'm going against Daryl Issa. Boo. Boo. This guy has done everything wrong in life. While I'm trying to pull myself up by my bootstraps, this guy's stealing cars. When this guy can't get his business going, he burns it down. When it comes to trying to raise money, what does he do? He breaks every campaign law. And then when he gets voted out from one area, he carpetbags over to the next. I mean, the guy in every way is wrong. And what happens? We have the coronavirus hits. We're all locked up, and so they're doing loans to try to help people to make it through. This guy, who was at one time the richest guy in Congress, he takes a massive loan of like $150,000 to supposedly for his wife, who then he divorces, and then he puts it into his campaign, and he's basically publicly funding his campaign for Congress. The guy's done everything wrong. But again, let's not talk about him, because the guy is despicable. Policy, right? Aside from our Constitution being at risk, the Dobbs decision, Roe v. Wade. Women should have the right to make their own decisions of their reproductive future. Yes. That's absolutely. If you can't clap for that, you can't clap for nothing. That's right. And I'm a nurse, and reproductive health is health care that should never be denied from a woman. Absolutely not. And so it's so important, and we need to stand up and we need to fight. Now, on the other end, Social Security and Medicare are now there's ideas of They've always wanted to cut it, by the way.
Yeah.
But now these people like Darrell Eisen, they're going after it. They're hoping to get a House majority, and they want to stifle democracy, and they also want to take away your life. They want to take away the financing that you need later on in your life, Social Security, and they want to roll back Medicare. And it's not okay. I want to actually take Medicare in the other direction. I think we should expand Medicare. You should be able to qualify for Medicare when you're 55, because some people might be ready for retirement, but now you got to pay for a COBRA, which is your supplemental insurance, for 10 extra years. And so it's absolutely imperative we actually expand. And what about, hearing aids and dental? There's so much, and your glasses, by the way. Also, what about the children? What about children? Shouldn't they be covered? Absolutely. Absolutely. Why do we have to watch commercials where children have cancer and we're having to donate money just for their care? It's of no fault of their own. And so we should be absolutely expanding Medicare to cover children and to cover those 55 and above, with the eventual goal of a one-payer system. But Republicans, Democrats, everybody, we can agree on at least that. Cover the children, and let's incrementally improve. Now, housing. It's a huge issue. I get it. I was the kid living on the couch. I understand. And so, first, the inclusionary housing thing, if you don't understand what it is, it's when you build a certain number of units, you bring in some units that are affordable. We're not calling them low, they're not low income. It's not going to bring bad people to your community. What it's going to do is allow people who are in your community to actually stay in your community. People who work within your community to have a place to be. Inclusionary housing is a win-win for everybody. But there's other aspects too. Every single community has a general plan, and part of that general plan has some affordable housing component. And what happens is it just doesn't pencil out to build it for these developers. It needs to be subsidized. It needs to be subsidized from the federal level. You need somebody to go to Washington, D.C. and get that money and bring it back so it can be built out. And I'm not saying that this is not going to be the slum. What we're doing is we're trying to build a place for families to be, to start your family, to launch your family. And so you need money, and it needs to come from the federal level, because it's not going to come from your city council. Sorry, Jimmy.
I recognize.
It's not coming from the city council. It's probably not even going to come from your state. It needs to come, and it needs to be made. It needs to be made to where there's a place for everyone, and there's also, it's got to be properly done, so that way that there's not all sorts of strings attached that make it impossible for that person, because rents are going up. They're going to continue to go up if we don't get a hold of this situation. So now, what's great is I heard Diego say, he talked about community choice energy. Bravo, Diego. I've been a proponent for community choice energy for years, and taking on these big utilities. And what they do is they take all the profits and it goes to Wall Street. Who takes the risk? You take the risk. When the place lights on fire because of their power lines, you take the risk. And then we end up paying for it. And then all the profits are going out to Wall Street. That's what's so great about community choice energy, because you take the profits and you put them back into your society. And so you put solar panels out. Maybe you put them on the affordable housing component. Maybe that brings down the cost for those people. You put in, like, say, all your city vehicles. They can be electric, and you could cover your city hall with solar panels, and it pays for itself. But you know what happens? Follow the money. Next thing you know, the big utilities, they're funding your opponent. So I can go on and on about so many of these issues, but you know what? In the end, it's got a lot to do with money. Now, for me, it's all grassroots. I'd rather do everything grassroots. I'll go out there myself. You'll probably see me out on the street somewhere here, putting signs, hammering in fence posts, because for every dollar that Darrell Eisen pays someone to do something, I'll be doing it myself. And so it's so important that we get grassroots candidates out there, people who are willing to wear out their shoes walking. I've walked hundreds and hundreds of miles. I spoke to thousands and thousands of people. In fact, I didn't think I would even be this far north until I saw the redistricting. I was shocked at how far north the district actually goes. Again, the district that I'm talking about goes all the way to the U.S. Mexican border and all the way here. It's massive. It's a massive endeavor. And I've been from one end of it to the other just in the last week. So again, I'm Stephen Houlihan. I'm a registered nurse. I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to fight for the common person. I'm here to knock out an American oligarch, someone who does not live in the district, someone who's enriched himself vastly through what I would say are shady, or what Brian would say is sheer corruption.
Yeah.
It's sheer corruption. So I'm endorsed by Alex Padilla, Scott Peters, Mike Levin, the Union Tribune down in San Diego, and many, many others. We have lawn signs, we have door hangers, we got cards, we have everything that a grassroots candidate should have. And so I just hope I can get your endorsement through your vote. So thank you for the opportunity. Take it away, Brian.
Don't go too far. All right. You're free to take a seat, I think, for a second here.
Or at least take a sip.
Take a sip. So, thank you again. I appreciate everything you're doing. It's a hell of a fight you got going, so it's gonna be anything you can do to help this man. I would love to see Daryl Ice gone. So here we go. This is my house, my rules. I want to do things my way, and so I am going to make us all go through some questions, right? So you guys, cards went out, or there was something over there to be able to write questions. We got some via the internet. One of my secret plans here is amazing at asking good questions. We are going to go ahead and hand it over to Bill. He's going to make it fun.
Well, that's that is a high expectation to make it fun, but don't we have some tremendous candidates here?
Yeah.
And I am so impressed. I am really impressed. What I would like to suggest to you candidates is this is going to be sort of a lightning round. We do have some time constraints, and actually, you all were so eloquent in your opening statements that you've actually covered some of the territory in the questions that we had. But what I'd like to ask you to try to do is, if you could possibly keep your answer to a minute or two, so we have time to get as many questions in the next 30 or 40 minutes. And so and some of them are a little, well, some of them frankly are more applicable to federal issues, some are state, some are distinctly local, and some relate to school board. And so we ask everybody's indulgence. You may hear a question that is not something that you were prepared to answer, but we'll try to spread it around. But actually, Mr. Houlihan, since you have already had a chance to get your breath, I'd like to ask you one question, and it is, what is your plan to regularize immigration? We have millions of people living in the shadows, and do you have a plan that you would support to bring folks out of the shadows?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm so loud I don't even need a mic. So, but I'll try to answer that very loaded and very controversial question. Comprehensive immigration reform. It's actually pretty simple. It makes sense. We need to expand our immigration courts. We need more immigration judges. We need to make sure that people are not stifled at the border. We need to make sure that there is a level of safety, and we need to make sure that people that within the frameworks of the law justly can come and immigrate. They should have that opportunity, and they should get their day in court and be brought across. And it should happen in a expedient manner. And so it's comprehensive immigration reforms.
Right.
That's what needs to happen.
Thank you so much. For our school board candidates, why don't we start with you, Nancy? What do you really consider the job of a school board member to be?
think one of the main parts of the job is to make sure everybody has what they need. Like the teachers have what they need to be able to do their jobs, and students have what they need to be able to learn. I mean, there are for example, the school board is in charge of hiring people, working with the rest of the district to set policy. But that's my personal goal is to make sure people what the conditions, supplies, resources.
Setting policy rather than managing the district.
I don't really think most high school board members actually know enough to be able to manage the district. As April brought up, there have been a lot of school board people on school boards who are in business and don't really know much about education. But I think they need to listen to the people in the district or work with them for policy.
All right, thank you. Abel, would you like to share your thoughts as well on that issue? What is the job of a school board member in your opinion?
So I think it's the job of a school board member to, I think it's a job of us to basically go out and listen to the teachers. And a lot of the teachers, they know what they need. They know what the students need. And a lot of the times you can't get what you need. And it's very frustrating when you go out and you try to talk to, sometimes the administration, sometimes the district and the school board, they're not all aligned. And it's frustrating when everybody has their own viewpoint and nobody really understands each other. And so I think it's important for a school board member to hear what the teachers have to say and see it through their point of view. And it's all about the students. In the end, it's all about making sure that they get what they need to succeed. And sometimes students, they don't get what they need because there's just not enough resources. And it's really sad because the teachers, they want to help, and we don't get the resources, teachers don't get the resources, and then it just stops there. And so I think the job of the school board member is to hear the teachers and to and to listen and try to help them as much as they can so that they can get the students what they need.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Jackson. So Murrieta is a beautiful, lovely place. A paradise, one might say. But even though it is a wonderful town, what do you think are the two or three, just briefly, the two or three greatest needs for Murrieta that you see in the next 3 to 5 years?
I have to stand. I have a lot of energy. One of the first things I noticed living in Murrieta for over 18 years, we need to look at the traffic conditions in Murrieta. The traffic has gotten heavy, it is getting heavy. They're looking at building new homes and new tracks and everything else associated with that, but then they're not considering the infrastructure, and that's associated with the traffic. You need to do a better job at planning and making sure it's in place before you build the new homes. And it doesn't just stop with the traffic. You said several things. I give you several. Okay, it goes along with the water. You mentioned Fossey. Okay, there you go. Right here. Okay, you have to make sure that the water districts are actively participating in this planning, because associated with this drought we're going through, you have to make sure you have the water supply to not just the new homes, but the existing homes. Let's talk about power. We got warnings throughout this summer because of the excessive heat pertaining to the fact that we're getting triple-digit temperatures. And we were told between a certain period of time to be very careful in this possibility of power outages. Now, associated with that, and you're going to build new homes, we have to make sure that the existing quality of life is in place to support the citizen, and then build a new home and allow it to grow and to expand. We have to do it carefully through planning. And just arbitrarily making decisions and following the money, that's a good idea to a certain degree. But we have to make sure we take care of them.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Fernandez, you have, what do you think? I mean, you were very detailed in your original remarks, but would you like to add anything over the next 3 to 5 years after your election? What do you think would be most important for Chino Hills as a city, the entire city?
Well, for the entire city, as I mentioned, first of all, the entire city needs representation. That's what the city council's for. And because there's a lack of representation, that's quite literally the entire reason I'm running. And it's turned into so much more. We've seen that there's a much needed need during this time of inflation to lower our energy bills, our internet bills, and so on. But the start is at energy and internet. The city council in general needs to pick up where the state government can or doesn't, and the federal government. Which is why I'm running for city council to represent the people, have a much better infrastructure of internet and energy, and so on. So you caught me off guard with these questions. In general, just have public transportation ready and necessary, because as everyone's mentioned, it's a statewide problem that all these new houses are coming and it's increasing traffic, and all that means is more cars, more congestion. When the solution, as we've seen in Japan, as we've seen in Europe, when they have these fast, high-speed trains, all these public transportation that reduces cars, reduces pollution, it's cleaner for the environment, and it's quicker. As you can see, we're trying to build the, San Francisco to San Diego train. If we have something like that, it would make our lives so much less stressful without seeing all the cars, because even one of us might use that same train instead of driving to work every day.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Okay, this is a friendly audience, so no gotcha questions here. However, so this is for Fausia, Brian, and Stephen, although the city council folks can certainly chime in on it as well. So we heard a lot about housing. It's obviously a major concern. But my question, and I guess we'll start with Fausia and then go to Brian and then to Stephen. Let's get real. So what first step needs to happen to address this massive problem? I mean, beyond the theory of, we all want people housed, when you're elected, what's the first thing that you can do to address this?
There has been a lot talk about it, and there has been a lot done at the state level. Right now, in the last legislative session, we had 5 major bills passed for housing, which lets we talk about a local control versus state control, and I'm sure there has been a lot of debate about that. Local control is very good, where city council members get to decide how they're built, how they're planning and building their cities. But being on the water board, I know that we have approved housing for housing projects that builders are not building for 10 years or 12 years. So there is a big issue about, you talk about money, right? And you talk about profits. They're not building because they want to build at the high, when prices are at the high, so they can get the most profit out of it. There's that factor. There's always CEQA. We talk about CEQA. CEQA is one of a very big step in building any infrastructure projects. We need to really improve how our CEQA is working right now. There's a lot of steps to approve projects, but they get delayed just because CEQA process takes a long time. So first, streamlining CEQA, making sure these projects that are being approved get to the project, and then we talk about as a state level, bringing funding to the district where we can be a part of affordable inclusionary housing.
So first step for you would be addressing CEQA.
Absolutely.
Right. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing I'm looking at is engaging some of the local leaders, not just like city council members, things like that, but people literally like Laura, who have put a decade or more of work into this sort of situation. They've thought about it more than I'm ever going to, right? And they're further ahead than I'm ever going to be. So what I want to do is work with them to see where they're at, what the plans are. So for example, Laurel has talked to me repeatedly about working with groups like Habitat for Humanity to help build some lower attainable housing, if you will. Being able to actually bring that sort of thing at scale would be something that would infinitely help. But it also, what Fazia said is absolutely correct. In order to be able to build, you have to be able to deal with the regulations that come with building. You have to be able to think about the water impacts. You have to think about the electrical impact. And all of these things come together. But I think at the end of the day, we need to be looking at creative ways to make all this happen. And it starts with actually talking to the people locally who know best.
All right. Wonderful. All right, so Stephen, we all know the feds have all the money. And so how, I guess not to run over the question, but how do you get some of that money out here to actually do something on the ground for housing?
Well, first you need a representative who actually lives in the district and knows what's going on in the district. That would be a good start. I mean, I can always go back to that one. But yeah, you need from the federal level, you need there to be some incentives for programs like inclusionary housing. So there needs to be incentives that outweigh the disincentives put forward by certain people. Like I hate to say, like the Building Industry Association's been pretty tough. They sometimes don't want you to get that inclusionary housing component because they want to optimize the profits. And so that if you can create some incentives at the federal level that can offset that financial burden that's put forward by the Business Industry Association or whoever, then you can actually get through and create these the inclusionary housing. And you also need to incentivize the building of the affordable housing so that when a developer wants to come in and actually do it, it pencils out. Because that when you're actually in the council, Jimmy, when you get there,
Yes.
they're going to talk about, does it pencil out? Does it pencil out? Does it pencil out? You're going to hear it all the time. And so they'll just say, well, it just doesn't pencil out. So they're just not going to do it. And so it has to do with someone putting in the incentives, making sure that you bring in that federal money. And unfortunately, our current congressman has brought in nothing ever, in 20 years of being in Congress. And so that's what needs to happen. And I think it goes back to what Diego said. You need someone who actually represents you.
Well, I was going to say, Diego and Jimmy, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Actually, they pretty much synopsisized very well. I mean, the processes each one brought to the table. Definitely something that, as a council person, I would be interested in because the end result would be seen at my level. So I have to agree with what I'm saying.
And like Stephen just mentioned, and like I also mentioned earlier, it's where the federal and state government fails, that's where the local has to pick up. And especially in situations like mine and Stephen's, everyone needs fair representation. And for Stephen's case, they have to live in the district, and for my case, people actually need to canvas and live in my area in order to finally be representation.
All right. Yes.
I just want to say something else too. It's really important. I read an article the other day, and they were saying that there are no available starter level homes throughout the vast majority of this country. This is not just a California thing. This is literally Michigan, Ohio. This is something that impacts every single person in this country, and it's something that we all need to be looking at here locally, but certainly just be aware of. This is something that everyone's going to feel, and it's especially going to hit our younger generations even more.
And yeah, just to add to that, I keep on mentioning people. A lot of people, they hear about it, but they don't realize it. My generation is quite literally the first generation in human history that's going to have it worse off than our parents did, considering climate, housing, wages, jobs. It's ridiculous. This has never happened in history. Even when times were worse, at least that next generation had something better. We have nothing to look forward to, and that's why I want to inspire people to run, to be activists, to do what we're doing in order to make things better.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that comment, Diego. Let me say, I want you to inspire younger people to vote also, because when the politicians all look at the propensity levels and who bothers to vote, and they all look like me, that's how we don't get the change that we want and that we need. So I'm so happy you're running, and get the under 30s, under 25s to actually vote. It would make a huge difference in the country. But, you know, I know many of us here contact our legislators regularly. And let's say some of us are ignored by our legislators regularly. So I guess my question is, how will you absolutely maintain contact with your constituents? How will you respond to them? Anybody?
So most of you have seen me around. I am in the community. My slogan comes, I am from the community, and I am in the community because of the fact that I am running to represent, right? Representation is what we're trying to bring. And for me, that all the issues has come from the community, and I want to make sure that I am there for people to reach out. If you see my cards, I have my personal cell phone number for everybody, and you will know people have texted me in the middle of the night and I've answered. And this is, as an elected, I've done that. That's my track record, and that's what I'm running for, and that's what I'm planning to do.
All right. You know, for our school board candidates, let me just say, full disclosure, I was a board member in Corona Norco for 22 years. And nothing animates people like their 6-year-old kid, right? If they think their child has been wronged, they are very engaged very quickly at a very emotional level. You are both educators. I think you recognize that. So my question for, whoops, that's okay. I think they've been asked. My question for both of you is, how will you maintain contact with your constituents, parents particularly, who are really the bulk of the voters here?
Well, they added me on Facebook, so I've been talking to a lot of the parents there, and honestly, I have like Fazia said, I have my cell phone number, my personal email, and anytime that anyone asks, I've been there to talk to the parents, and honestly, I go on runs around the city all day, and you know, sometimes I just see someone like, hey, you know, how's life, and you know, sometimes they'll tell me, oh, you know, something about their family member, you know, and then like, and it's easy to get lost in just going to the board meetings and then just doing the policy there, but it's important to get to talk to the people and actually help the people with their own problems, because that's the whole point of everything, to actually talk to the people.
All right. Nancy?
Well, I know they can reach out to us via email. I'm planning on showing up to events at the various schools where they can have the opportunity to talk to me. I know some of them, I have friends who are on school boards, and they get some interesting comments. So I think it would really also depend on if it's a widespread problem or an individual way to, again, I think first of all, we're there for the students. We have to support the staff, because they are the ones, on the front lines with the students. But I don't know if I've ever thought about this cell phone thing yet. I'm not sure how they do that. If they give you a district phone as a board member, or
Sometimes some districts provide you with a phone. They'll provide you with an email.
we would have a district email. That I know. I don't know how the phone issue works.
Right.
I'll speak to an alternative, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm known for having a big mouth. So I'll be frank, my business card has my cell phone on it. However, it's not my direct cell phone number. I have a separate number that is my campaign number that goes directly to my cell phone. And so that gives me the peace of mind of knowing that if there's an issue, I can handle it. right? So if there's something that needs to come up, or if I have to have a conversation with someone, I can do so. But it also means that no one's necessarily got my direct number, and I can screen calls and do the things I have to do, right? To make sure that I'm protecting my sanity. I want to be clear on this. It doesn't mean you don't answer constituent phone calls, right? Like you have to deal with the issues that are ahead of you. But you also want to make sure that you're maintaining that wall that gives you the privacy that every person deserves, with the ability and need to do your job as a public official.
Yes, well, I've seen it both ways. I've been on both ends of it. And I think the core of the question is when people need a response from you, that they're going to get a timely response.
Yeah.
So how you do it is going to vary, but doing it is the important part. So many of us don't get timely responses from our electeds. But, you know, Stephen, we have another federal issue.
Can I answer your first question
Sure,
before
go
you
ahead.
jump in? So I actually have served on city council. I served from 2016 to 2020, and I answered every call. I got back to everybody. And I remember when, just as an activist, trying to get a hold of my council, I never got a single call back ever. Never got a meeting. They were never available. And I'll tell you what, I've gotten so many calls from people who have tried to reach out to Daryl Isa when they've had catastrophic circumstances, and they have never ever received anything at all. No call, no email, nothing. And then when I call them back, they are so thankful. They're like, just the fact that you called me means so much. And so it doesn't matter what the method is, whether it's by cell phone or whatever. Make yourself available. But you know what? It's about the dialogue. It's about the dialogue. And you know, it can be tough sometimes, because once your number's out there, there's going to be haters. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people that just don't like you. But you know what? Once you're elected on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, that's their right to speak. But you know what? The best thing to do is try to get them to actually converse with you, because all they're going to do on Facebook, I call it hate book. They're going to say how much, blah, 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 blah. The next thing you know, when you see them, you're like, weren't you the guy that was saying all that stuff on Facebook? Oh, hey, it's nice to meet you. It's like, wait a minute, you know. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about dialogue. And you know what? Meetings like this, I meet with people over at the coffee shop all the time. So, you know, you got to be out there with your constituents, and you know, you got to be a people person, because you know, when I think of Daryl Isa, I'm thinking like a Mr. Burns on like The Simpsons. I mean, is that what the guy really is? I mean, come on. But yeah, he's not going to be with you.
All right.
But yeah, go on to your next question.
Yeah, so here's the question. We're in a pretty conservative community here. So the question is, do you support raising the age for gun ownership to 21 or 25?
Well, that's easy. Yeah, absolutely. But you don't. So when you're 18 and you just graduate from high school, and maybe someone broke your heart or something, you might make some bad decisions. You might go get an AR-15 that some fool would be willing to sell you, and not even teach you how to use it, and just send you on your way. And that doesn't make any sense. So at least 21, and for any ownership of a handgun, and for semi-automatic weapons, I mean, it's a little crazy even to sell them to someone when they're 21. Now, I lived up in Alaska, and I lived up in the Arctic, and that's when I bought my first gun. And you know what? They have polar bears up there. Yeah, they have big animals, and the polar bear's not even the meanest guy. The meanest guy's the moose. And you know what? We had the long rifle, and you know, God forbid, I never had to actually shoot one, because I probably would have never got it in the right spot. But you know what? Down here, we don't have a moose. We don't have a grizzly bear or polar bear. The only grizzly bear in California is on the flag or in a zoo. And so it gets to be ridiculous. And if you think you're going to be fighting against the government with your AR-15, they're just going to drop a bomb on you. It's just not going to happen. And so, you know, when you look at the Second Amendment, which I support, by the way, but all you 2A people that might be online are going to say whatever, read it. It's a well-regulated militia. So what do they do in other countries? They train you how to use the firearm. You go to a class. You do the right thing. That's what they do in Switzerland. Everybody in Switzerland has to learn how to use a firearm. So it's not the matter of the firearm itself. It's that we don't train people correctly. So absolutely. 18-year-old with an AR-15 is ridiculous, stupid, and a bunch of politicians say they need them to go shoot gophers out on their property in Wyoming. That is sad because children are dying in classes, and that's not okay.
And so the final thing, and I'd like you to keep it to 30 seconds. I got my signal. So 30 seconds. It's November 9th. You've won! What is the #1 highest priority, 30 seconds or less, when you show up at your first meeting? Let's start with, well, we'll just go down the front row. Jimmy, you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Well, the first thing I plan on doing, and I mentioned it to Hilaria already, that I'm going to thank God for this opportunity. Other than that, I'm going to thank all the voters who had the trust and faith in me, and I'm representing them, and they're willing to trust me. A good job.
All right. Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
So the first thing I would do, yes, thank God, thank everybody, and then I would have to go work with the superintendent and try to get a system in place so that teachers can get work done quicker and in a more efficient manner, so that they can actually go back home to their lives and then come to work and get it going and actually be happy.
All right, thank you.
So my first legislative priority would be to see how to handle the drought that's going on right now. So that would be the first thing we'll take care of.
All right, thank you. Stephen.
At a federal level, and you think for 30 seconds or
Yes,
less, they try to
30
cover all
seconds or
that.
less.
You know, tough. Aside from kissing my wife and hugging my child and celebrating and kicking Daryl Liza's tail down the road, is immediately getting to work on everything we can do to undo the Dobbs decision and to give women back their rights. I think it truly is the #1 priority in this election, and we need to come back. The election's in 2022. Why are we going back to 1952?
All right, thank you. Nancy.
Well, I will be new to this and realize I have a learning curve, so my plan is to listen to all the people around me, get feedback.
All right.
Yeah, I'm talking about everybody. Teachers, students, parents, other board members.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And Diego.
So the first thing I would do is, of course, thank everybody for investing in a 20-year-old to give back to the community. It's a huge commitment, and I'm willing to take it. But like I mentioned, Los Serranos are undervalued. The councilman doesn't knock on our doors. And most of all, we're missing sidewalks and streetlights, even though we're the oldest community and one of the wealthiest communities. So working on finally shortening they just started a 30-year plan to put sidewalks and streetlights, which is ridiculous. So get that cut in half at least.
All right. And our next state senator, Mr. Nash.
And just to answer the question real quick, honestly, the first thing I'd be doing is making sure that everyone knows whether or not they voted for me, whether or not they like me, I'm here to help them. This is not something where I can sit here and talk shit about 412 all day long and absolutely mean every single word of it. But at the same time, my job is to represent those people. My job is to make their lives better. That may include some things that they don't like, but that also means making sure the streets are safer, making sure that their communities are healthier, and making sure that they get to live the lives that they want to live. Give them the things that drew them to extremism in the first place. So, with that, I want to thank you guys all for coming out tonight. I know it's been a long couple hours. It's been a long day for myself, for Nancy. By the way, special thank you to Nancy, please. She's absolutely amazing. And I thank all you guys for coming out here. It takes a lot of work for the candidates to get out here. This is the busiest month that we're all going to have. For you guys, you have so many other things going on in your lives. I appreciate each and every one of you coming out here and taking the time to do this and taking a few hours away from everything else you got going on. So with that, anyone that's still out there in internet land, thank you again for watching. I hope you guys had some snacks. Mary Jo Malone, thank you. You're going to get a singular shout out. But thank you so much for coming out tonight. And, but with that, we're going to call it good tonight. Thank you so much. I think that we are going to take a couple candidate photos. If you guys can give me like 30 more seconds. But everyone else, please stick around. There's plenty of food. After that, feel free to call it a night. Thanks again.